Hi everyone, I'm Noe and this is Afrific Space. Today we'll be reviewing Palace Work by Naguib Mahfouz. Mahfouz was an award-winning Egyptian writer. He was the second African to win the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1988. His published works include more than 30 novels and over 350 short stories. Palace Work was first published in 1956 in Arabic and in English in 1990. It is the first volume of the Cairo trilogy. The second volume is entitled Palace of Desire and the third is Sugar Street. The novel is a family chronicle that explores the life experiences of members of Ahmad Jawad's family. Ahmad Jawad is a father with a double face. He shows a rigid, oppressive face to his family and a jovial face to the public. And what happens inside his house can be seen as a microcosm of what happens in the outer Cairo society. So he's tyrannical and authoritarian in the way he relates with his family, and then at some point they begin to look for ways to be independent. And as they try to assert themselves, his authority begins to crack and to crumble. And that parallels what happens in the outer Cairo society, where the Egyptians begin to agitate for independence from the British government. So the novel looks at the relationship between the daily lives of individuals and their religious faith. It gives us diverse pictures of the conditions of women in that society, and then it also gives us insight because it represents the 1919 Egyptian revolution. So in this review, I want to look at the relationship between individuals' identities and their environment. We know that human beings are products of their environment, and I don't know if anybody can actually rise above their environment. And by environment, I mean the cultural values, socioeconomic, religious, and political structures that affect an individual's lives and shape how they show up in the world. So we're looking at the kind of parents you have, the kind of education you have acquired, the environment you live in, the kind of opportunities that are available to somebody. So all these things come together to shape somebody's identity. So I want to look at 5 female characters. There are male characters too, there are other female characters, but I'm thinking that by looking at these 5 female characters, we'll be able to gain insight into the complex nature of this society that is represented here. So the female characters are Amina, Mrs. Shortcut, Zainab, Jalila, and Zanuba. Now Amina represents the typical traditional Egyptian woman who is shaped by their obedience or naked belief to religious teachings and traditional gender notions about men and women. And Amina's imprisonment, that's what I call it, is made worse because she marries at the age of 13 when she's still a baby. And then she marries this man who is oppressive. He tells her not to step out of the house, and she's not able to step out of her matrimonial home till her 25th year in marriage. And she's able to do this because her husband is not at home. Her children actually encourage her to step out so that she can at least familiarize herself with the vicinity of her home. So she steps out. Now, if we look at her character, we can actually say that her identity is fixed. Now, Homi Baba in Location of Culture talks about identities as liquid, as always flowing, no becoming. And the reason is because human beings every day encounter new things. You can read a new book and you encounter a new idea, or maybe you move from one geographical space to another, so maybe it's a different world. You have to start readjusting on learning things and learning new things. So in that way, people continue to negotiate their identities as their worldview shifts, you know. So but in Amina's case, Amina is in this home for 25 years. She does the same things, just cook food, take care of the family, obey her husband. The husband actually gives her instructions, and then she knows what to do with those instructions. She cannot disobey. And then she does not go out, she does not interact with the outer world. So there is nothing to negotiate for her. So one can actually safely say that her identity is fixed. I know this is debatable actually. So then apart from that, she's a good wife, she's a good mother, she loves her family deeply, and there's this coffee ritual they do every afternoon where she sits with her children and they bond, you know. So she also provides a soft landing for her children when their father's anger erupts. Then the second woman is Mrs. Shoka. She's a widow from old Egypt's aristocracy. Her own leadership or power extends beyond her own household. She actually does two significant roles in this novel. First is that when Ahmad Jawad expels his wife from home because she steps out in the 25th year of her marriage, it is this woman who actually comes to tell him that he has not done well, and she rebukes him and says, go and bring back your wife. And then the second role she plays is that Ahmad Jawad believes that his older daughter or elder daughter should marry before the younger one. According to him, if the younger one should marry before the older one, then it means that it's going to spoil the chances of the older one of ever getting married. And so he already has rejected 2 offers of marriage for his second daughter. And then this woman comes in and says, you can't be acting like you are God, that this is not okay, you know. So I quote, she says, don't tell me you've decided not to let the younger marry until the elder has. Who are you to decree this or that? Leave God's work to God. He's the most compassionate one of all. If you want, I can give you tens of examples of younger sisters who married before the older ones without their marriages keeping their sisters from excellent matches. So if we look at this, what Jawad is trying to do is what we find in Genesis 29, where Laban actually gives Leah in the place of Rachel. And then when Jacob discovers it and says, you've deceived me, he says, we don't have this kind of tradition where we allow the younger to marry before the older. So if you want Rachel, so you have to serve me for another 7 years. So he had to do that. So that is actually what this man is doing. He's scared, you know, for his daughter, the elder one. So, but the woman now tells him, I want my second son, or my second son is interested in marrying your daughter Aisha. So that's the third offer of marriage. So with that offer, the man had to have a rethink. So if you look at it, maybe 3 things come into play to allow this man to change his mind. First is that maybe he has regards for the elderly women, and second is that the Shokat family and Ahmad Jawad's family, they have a long-standing relationship even before the death of Mrs. Shokat's husband. So maybe because of that relationship, he respects her. Then the third is that the woman makes him an offer he cannot refuse. If we consider the socioeconomic benefits of that kind of offer, then we know that, Jawad cannot refuse this offer, so he allows his daughter to get married. Then the third woman is Zainab. Zainab is the daughter of Ahmad's closest friend. She is Ahmad's daughter-in-law and the wife of Ahmad's first son. So when she comes into this household, she comes in with a different worldview. In her father's house, women are allowed to go out and interact with the outer world. In fact, she accompanies her father to different social locations. So when she comes into this new household, she wants to continue with that way of living. But then they tell her, no, the women here don't go out, and since you are married into this household, you have to abide by the rules. So she begins to adjust herself to this, even though it is suffocating her. Then her second frustration is that her husband keeps late nights, and whenever he comes back, he's drunk. She's also trying to manage this, and then the husband is caught in a very compromising situation with Zainab's maid. And then the woman says, to hell with this marriage. I cannot stay here and be accepting this humiliation. So she quits the marriage and she asks for a divorce. And this is like turning the tradition upside down, because women are not the ones who ask for that kind of thing, divorce. So she boldly denounces her husband. And then her father-in-law is saying, what are people going to say? A marriage that has not stayed up to a year. And he's concerned about family loyalty, telling Zainab that she has to condone what her husband has done. But Zainab is thinking, no, that this is not proper. We cannot continue to allow women to be victimized by men who don't even deserve them. So as the men are out there agitating for independence from the British government, the women, Zainab is representing the class of women who are rising in that society and quietly agitating for the recognition of the rights of women. And she's able to do this with the support of her own family, actually. Then the fourth and fifth female characters are Jalila and Zanuba. They are courtesans. They contribute to the nightlife of Cairo society. They are professional entertainers, so they make their own money, they build their own houses, they have their own houses. And even when it comes to relationship matters, they are able to choose the men they want. For instance, in the relationship between Zanuba and Ahmad, it is actually Zanuba who initiates it. And then they're able to check out the men they want to see if they are able to provide financial and emotional security for them. Unlike the girls in their father's houses who their fathers offer or accept or reject marriage offers on their behalf. So they don't have a choice. Whatever their father accepts for them, that's what they take. So Mahfouz presents those women. He does not present them like just courtesans. There are other things in their lives too, and they are respected too somehow. They are socially visible. There's something he does, like if you look at the relationship between Ahmad and his wife, is like headmaster-student relationship. Ahmad gives instruction to his wife, and the wife carries out and then reports back to him. They don't even have conversations where they joke and laugh. So if Ahmad wants that kind of authentic relationship, he gets it with Zanuba, you know, one of the courtesans or his female friends. So if we see where he is with Zanuba, he has this good conversation, he relaxes, he can even remove his clothes, they play and dance and sing, you know, he's very authentic. So the question is, what do you think Mahfouz is doing here? Like the women who are married the traditional way, they are passive and they don't really they don't talk with their husbands in a playful way. Their relationships are not authentic. But if these men want something real, they actually go to these courtesans. So the question is, why? Why? It's hypocritical. It's something that people should think about seriously. Then part of what I consider the beauty of this text is this colorful way that Mahfouz represents the diverse situations of women. You know, we don't have a single story of maybe the Aminas or the Mrs. Shortcuts or the Zainabs. We see, you know, different categories of women in different situations. That also attests to the complex nature of that society. And then he does not give us a category that is his favorite. What he does is he shows us the two sides of each of the coins. So in Amina's case, if Amina wants to be happy, she has to like allow herself to be walked all over by her husband. She has to be submissive to him, and then her benefit will be that she will have a good relationship with her children. Then if we consider the other side, like when she's expelled out of her house, we just see that she has no right in that house. Like a household where she has been in for 25 years, they just kick her out like that, and then she goes back to her mother's house. And what if the man says he doesn't want anymore? So consider what would be the lady's situation in that kind of situation. Then if we look at the courtesans, Jalila and Zanuba, they have money, they have social visibility, they have their own houses, but then the relationship they have with the men is not formal. They are not their husbands. So one day the men will walk out of those relationships, so they will keep having emotional instability in their lives. So he shows us these two sides. We don't have anyone that will say this is the one that he prefers. So that is one of the things I like about this novel. For my recommendation, it is 100%. Go and pick up this text and read it. One of the benefits is that you'll see this colorful representation of women in diverse situations. And then also, you can also get to know about Egyptian history, a little bit of it. If you don't know anything about Egyptian history at all, you will get to know about the Egyptian revolution of 1919, the key figures that participated in that revolution. And then also there is this beautiful childhood vision in the text. It is seen in the life of Ahmad's last son, Kamal. If you read it, you're going to, you know, laugh and like it. And then another thing is that this man won the Nobel Prize in 1988. And this palace work, the Cairo trilogy, is his most famous work. So if you read it, at least you're going to have an idea of what the judges of the Nobel Prize always look out for when they are making their judgments. So I hope that this review helps to make your reading of the text smooth. Give me your questions, write your comments, and if you have not subscribed, Subscribe so that you can always get our videos each time the videos are released, and this can also get to many other people. So thank you for watching. Until next time, take care.